Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Subculture After Dark. I'm Dave G and I've got Harley here as well. Hey, Harley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
So, mate, tell us a little bit about Subculture After Dark. Why have we decided to do an After Dark version of Subculture?
Because it's all the sordid things we do in the shadows that we just cannot put on regular, decent radio. Or, no, it's really our show for heavy music, heavy metal, all the stuff that, it's more of a niche show for the fans who want just the metal and that we don't play on our other shows about film and radio.
Yeah, so pretty much I'm sure most of you who are listening to this now would know that I've been working as a heavy metal journalist for a lot longer than what I care to remember. I used to do it on television, and then I was working for Buzz magazine for many years, working for Heavy magazine for a lot of years as well. And I do a couple of radio shows overseas that don't air in Australia and don't get put online. So we thought, what can we do with these interviews? Because we can't throw them on any of the radio shows that we do here in Australia because the tracks are just too heavy. But we didn't want these interviews to go to waste. So we thought, you know what? Let's do a Subculture After Dark podcast that's for everybody out there who loves alternative music, that loves heavy metal. And it works both ways because that means anyone listening to this doesn't have to put up with any of the pop shit that we play on our other shows too. So you get a benefit for listening to Subculture After Dark. But we have got
so we're not playing Barbie Girl today?
No. Everything on this show will be heavy metal or alternative music. So,
however, I'm going to put out a challenge right now. If any bands out there are heavy artists and want to do a cover of Barbie Girl for us to play, send it in.
I'm sure there's probably one out there. If we have
there probably is.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're a heavy metal band out there and you want to do a cover of Barbie Girl for Harley by Aqua, drop us a line because that would be absolutely amazing. But we've already got a stunning show for everybody tonight anyway. So we are going to play the brand new track from Cradle of Filth. We've got new music from Camelot, Cattle Decapitation, Enslaved. We've got so much on this show. We're also going to be chatting to
Hang on. Are we talking about our weekend or is this the music?
No, that's just the weekend. But look, we've got some huge interviews as well. We've got the guys from Enslaved who are going to chat to us about their brand new album before we play their new single Forest Dweller. We've got a big interview that's coming up very, very soon. I don't know. Do I give away the band name now or do I just wait? Because this interview did not go the way that I expected it to go. This interview actually ended up with the member of the band that I was chatting to telling me that the band's not going to record anymore. That this is the last album. Do I give out the name now, mate? Or
no, you can't. You've given the punchline. You can't give out the info now. Everyone, you've got to listen and guess along the way.
It is a very, very big band. That's all I'll say for now. But just dropped into the middle of the interview that's it. We're packing up stumps and we're going home. Also, we've got the guys from Ne Obliviscaris on as well. Of course, the Aussie metal artists that have been taking it to the Europeans over the last few years. They got a brand new album coming out. So I sat down this week and had a chat with their vocalist about the brand new album as well. So it is a big, big show. Oh, I should mention too, the other band that we've got on is this awesome band from America called Cthulu Dreamt. Now, this is another interview that went completely the opposite way than what I expected it to. I got them on to talk about a brand new album, and they ended up talking to me about tabletop gaming and a novel that they've got coming out. Turns out these guys are huge sci-fi fantasy fans and have got this a brilliant thing that's coming out aside from their album. So, make sure you stay around to take a listen to Cthulhu Dreamt.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. It was just one of those things where sometimes when you're doing an interview, you don't get a lot of background on the band. So I was given like just the shortest thing. I was given their album to listen to. So I listened to the album and I read what the publicist had written through, and I went through their Spotify list and uh, went onto their socials to have a look and see what they'd been doing. But there was no mention of any of this other stuff up there. So when the interview went that way, it was a complete surprise. But I'm really glad that it did, because we got into a really good conversation about that. But without any other further ado, let's jump into Subculture After Dark. We're going to take a listen to the brand new track from Cradle of Filth called She Is a Fire. And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we've got something very, very special on our show. I should say a very, very special guest actually on our show. Ne Obliviscaris have got their brand new album coming out on the 24th of March, and we thought today, what better way than to find out a little bit more about this album than to get Tim on the phone to talk all about it. Welcome to the program, mate.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, mate, reading about this album before I even listened to it, this album sounded like it was a marathon for you guys to put together, with band members getting trapped overseas during the pandemic and everything. Tell us a little bit about the process that went into making this album.
Sometimes I don't even know where to start with answering that question. I mean, I'll give you the short version to start off with, which is, we came home in 2019 to write the new record, and we had studio time booked for March, April 2020. And that's when we were going to record the album. And we had done drums. We'd done drums in the US. Dan was just literally flying back. He was on the plane back to Australia when they announced they were closing the borders. So he got back in. But Tino, our bassist who lives in Italy, and Benji, our lead guitarist who lives in France, and our producer, Mark Lewis, who was in the US, none of them managed to get here. And then, of course, the borders stayed closed for a couple of years. And so that was that. So instead of everybody being together in one place recording the album in March, April 2020, it ended up taking us almost 2.5 years, and we recorded the album in 9 different recording studios in 5 different countries. So it was definitely a very, very trying and difficult process, and we definitely thought that we worried at times that maybe it might never get done, but we did it, and it's here, and we love it, and we're super proud of it. So it's exciting that it's finally coming out.
Yeah, that sounds like you put a big jigsaw puzzle together with all the parts coming in from around the world. Did that make the process more difficult, or in a way did that give you a little bit more creativity?
I mean, it definitely made it more difficult. The way that it worked was because of Mark Lewis. So Mark Lewis, he mixed and mastered our previous album, Earn, but for this one, we had organized to have him produce and record the album as well. Now, we weren't able to get him to record everything, although he did record the drums. But having him on board as a producer, even remotely, what it meant was that the guys are, recording guitar tracks, and we're sending them to him, using the wonders of technology to check over. He's sending feedback. We had him reamp the guitars over in the US. We had Martino recording bass at a recording studio in Italy, and literally he's there in the studio with Italy, quickly sending kind of a draft of the bass tone to Mark Lewis live, who's then giving thumbs up or asking for adjustments, and then they get that settled, and then Tino then goes ahead and records the rest of the day, with the Italian recording engineer. So basically the ability to have somebody coordinating and checking all of the different elements when you've got all these different studios, all these different countries with a lot of different engineers, it was the key, So even for my vocals, I went to a studio here in Melbourne, Australia, tried out about 5 different microphones, we recorded the same different line, and we sent it to Mark Lewis. Hey, which one do you want to use? Which one do you think is going to fit with the choices we've made with the rest of the record? So having that one person that was involved, it is why the album sounds different with the production, and we really think that it's by far the best production, the best mix of our music that we've had on a record, and that's because it's the first time we've had the same person from start to finish that's been involved. So even with all the studios, all that time, recorder year period, all that sort of stuff, it was really being able to have that connection with us and Mark Lewis, bring that all together that made it work.
I also understand that you had the opportunity to revisit some tracks. For example, Charles's violin solo on Gruel got revisited again in 2021, I understand. Was that a good thing? Did you see that as a good opportunity to go back and reimagine some songs or to fix up some things that you weren't happy with?
Yeah, it was an unusual experience because we haven't had a chance to do that since the first album. The first album, Portal of Eye, it was a collection of, it was like a best of the early years of the band. And the band had been together for 9 years at that time when it came out. I mean, when we started recording that album, I guess it had been 6 years, so it was kind of a long period of time that we were revising those songs. Whereas for Citadel Urn, we wrote the record and then we recorded it, pretty much straight away as soon as we were happy. For this one, we had finished the drums, guitars, and bass when the pandemic hit. And, I would say maybe I was like 70-80% done with my vocals and violins. I was due to record like the following month in April when the album got shut down. So with the example of Graal, what happened with that one, that was a song that was kind of last on my list of, I tried some parts, I wasn't quite happy, and I hadn't finished that when the pandemic hit. And so I had a bunch of demo ideas, but nothing that I had, settled on, and it kind of got just put off to the side because the pandemic hit, and then there was other things that were more important for a while than finishing the record. So the unusual thing was that then finally, in between lockdowns, when I was planning to record my violin parts in April 2021, got to early 2021, and I'm going back to this song that, the rest of the song was written like 9-12 months earlier, and I literally had not looked at the violin parts probably for 9 months. And I came back to it at the beginning of 2021 with a fresh mindset. And so the violin parts at the end of that song were then different to what I had in mind a year earlier. And that was really exciting because when I came with those parts, it was a real kind of light bulb. Yes, this is way better than what I had last year. This is finally something that feels like it is going to, be worthwhile of that moment, because like that riff, I was, so excited about it. That's like the penultimate moment on the song, the big epic finale. And it needed a great violin solo, and I wasn't happy with anything I'd done the year before. So that was, I guess, a little side benefit of that ability to kind of disappear, like forget about it for a while, come back fresh and reconnect and do something different, and it came out really well.
Was there any negatives at all at being able to come back to tracks like that? Because I spoke to a band a few weeks ago who actually had an entire album recorded. They got told by their label that to postpone it because of the pandemic. They went back and listened to it 12 months later, hated every song that they'd recorded, and then headed back into the studio and re-recorded every track. Was there any negatives like that for you guys?
I'm like laughing at that. So, I'm going to quickly comment on that story because when we're doing a record, right, the initial inspiration when you're writing, it's really important to feel inspired and excited by the songs. And so that's the writing point because everything's in your imagination. The demos, they don't sound amazing. It's a pre-production. But in your imagination, it sounds great. But then when you start to record the album, when you start to mix, and especially obviously master, it's supposed to be the final product, you come to life. And the theme through that ending part is, of course, picking apart everything that can be fixable or improved, especially through the mix and with the recording. Is there anything that's not coming across in the song? Do we need to add anything or change anything or re-record anything? And the catch with that is you spend a lot of time focusing on what could be better or what you're not liking about it. And so hopefully for me, it's always hoping that when we get to the end of the mix and master process, that I can listen to the master and go, yes, I love this. This is great. I'm really excited again, and I'm really proud of the product. What I found with this, and it's the same with every record, so I just ignore these thoughts, is that when we finish the album, I listen to it a few days in a row just to make sure everything is done and that is the final master. And then you tick it off, and then I can't listen to it again, because if I listen to it again like a couple of weeks later, I'll start to listen like, oh, did we mix that bit right? Or maybe that bit's not any good, or oh, maybe we fucked up that part. It's really tricky because you start overthinking things. But for me, that happens on every record, and I know it. So I just go, no, it's done. Nothing can be changed. And so, yeah, I kind of sympathize for that band because, they could change it. And so then it's hard. If you can change something artistically, it's hard to lock that down. I think for us, what was tricky was getting back in the headspace. And so I found it really difficult, especially like I was finishing some of my vocals in 2022, in the first half of 2022, for sections, or at some of these, like the vocals for Equas, our first single. I mean, I wrote those parts the second half of 2019, and then it's like May, June 2022 that I finished the vocals for that song, 2 to 3/4 years later.
Yeah.
And I found it really hard, like in 2021, early 2022, I found it really hard to get back in that headspace. And I was listening initially when I re-recorded some of the parts. I'm like, this doesn't sound any good. Like, it was good technically, but it didn't have the vibe of the original demos.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to get back in the headspace, because the creative headspace, I normally dive so deeply into the song. And after not being there for a long time, you can't just turn up and sing the parts. Like, you have to really, really feel the emotion of the song, and at least that's what it is like for me. And so I found that difficult, and that took me quite a while because of that stop-start nature that we would, when it was a start, it was like, oh man, how do I get back in this headspace of this 17-minute song we're writing, and make sure I understand everything and that everything is working properly. So that was really challenging. And then just generally the whole period was, extremely challenging for us. And also, people had things going on in their personal lives that were really difficult. And the band stuff didn't even seem that important at times. So it was like trying to get your headspace into the band stuff that didn't seem that important compared to some of the other stuff happening in our lives.
Yep.
But still wanting to do justice to these songs that we believed in so much.
I know you were quoted very early on as well, saying that you wanted to create the best and most complete album to date with this album. Talk us through that a little bit. What did you mean by a complete album, and do you feel that you achieved that with the finished product?
Yeah, I guess what I mean by a complete album is something that, start to finish, that it flows and it makes sense creatively, that the songs are great, and that the production brings out the best in the songwriting, and the performances as well, bring out the best in the songwriting. So it's the combination of all that, because, an album it's the songwriting, it's the performances and the recording and the mixing, it's all of that put together. And you can have great songs, but if the performances aren't good enough or the mixing is not good enough, then people might not understand and they might not connect with the song. And there's plenty of stuff out there like that, where someone's written a really cool song, especially you hear that with local artists who maybe they don't have the money yet to get a great mixing engineer, or maybe on their early albums, and so it's always just searching for that, because our music is quite complicated to write, to perform, but to mix as well. And it was trying to get all of that together. And I think because we were able to get Mark Lewis involved in all those ways I spoke about earlier, I do think we achieved the most complete album, in those regards. And for us, basically everyone in the band, it's their new favorite album, and we're so excited to play a lot of these songs live, and just kind of share it with everyone. And the feedback so far has been incredible, which is really exciting as well.
So how do you feel now that the album is about to come out? And I know you guys are heading out touring a lot for the second half of this year. How do you feel about being able to get back out onto the road and play these tracks live?
It's exciting. I mean, the last show we played was we did a European festival tour in June 2019, and we haven't done any shows since then. I haven't actually seen Martino and Benji since that tour in person. You know, we have band meetings like, you know, most weeks on Zoom, and so we see each other, we talk a lot, but I haven't actually been in the same room with, you know, two of my own band members for almost 4 years. That's kind of crazy. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, May 1, we arrive in Helsinki a few days early before our European tour to have a few days rehearsal ahead of that one. And then we're doing US, Canada late in the year as well. And we're going to be announcing pretty soon our Australian tour as well. We already have venues booked. We're just kind of tying things up. So, you know, for all our Australian fans, you know, stay tuned for that, because that is happening second half of this year. So we're really excited for that as well. And it'll just be great to connect with the guys in my own band in that way, to share that, but also with the audience, because to be honest, like, the most fun part about being in this band is playing live, playing these songs live. And these songs have had a really long period where we've been really excited about them, but no one has heard them. And so it'll be great to finally have the chance for everyone to hear it from March 24 when the album comes out, and then to come see them live, as well as, you know, some of the tracks from our other records as well on this upcoming world tour.
Awesome. Well, Tim, we're going to play Gruel in a minute on the show. What would you like to say to everybody out there, not only before they listen to this amazing track, but before they go out and grab Exul on the 24th of March as well?
I mean, we're just really grateful that people are supporting us in such strong ways and haven't forgotten about us. You know, I mean, it's been 5.5 years since our last record. We were a bit, you know, the discussion did come up within the band of like, oh man, I hope we don't take too long and people forget about us or something like that. And so to put out the new songs and see that the response has actually been, you know, far bigger than anything we've done before, is really exciting. And so just, you know, very grateful to anyone who has supported us in any way, whether it's buying a record or merch or supporting us on our Patreon or coming to a show, because, you know, it's only through that bands are able to make stuff happen and to continue to do what they do. So just really grateful for everyone to support us. And for those that are new to us, you know, it's definitely a journey, the new record, and so I'm just excited for people to give it a chance and see what they think. And yeah, just a really exciting year ahead. So yeah, and thanks very much for your time as well.
And you are listening to Subculture After Dark with Dave and Harley, and that was Gruel by Ne Obliviscaris. I keep on saying Neo for some reason. I don't know why I'm saying that tonight, but
you are the chosen one, Mr. Anderson.
Ne Obliviscaris, that was their brand new single there, Gruel. And now we're going to go into another brand new track, this time from Camelot. And this track sounds absolutely epic. This is giving us a good indication of what their new album is going to sound like. And I am loving it, if anything to go by with this track, because this is Opus of the Night by Camelot. You're listening to Subculture After Dark. Well, you're listening to Subculture After Dark with Dave G, and right now we have got a very, very special guest who is about to come onto the show because Godsmack are about to release their brilliant brand new album, and we thought what better way than to find out something a little more about this album than to get Shannon Larkin from the band on the phone right now. Welcome to the program, Shannon.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Now, mate, I have had the privilege of listening to this album over the last couple of days, and I've got to say, it is an absolute true work of beauty. I've absolutely fallen in love with this album, so congratulations, and how are you feeling about it now?
Yeah, thank you so much, because we feel the same way. Like, we love this record, and God, after, all the records and all the years, and it was like the most drama-free, easiest one, funnest one that we've made. And I feel it's definitely Sully's best writing, his best lyrics. I just love everything about it. We can't wait. We're super excited, man. It's like we can't wait to get on tour and do what we do, the live band thing.
You said it was one of the most fun records to put together. Tell us a little bit about that. What made it such a fun experience?
Well, I guess, basically all the years have passed, and we've been through pretty much everything, that breaks a band up, drugs and alcohol, women, money, and ego, right? We've been through all those issues over 20 years and come out closer, with stronger friendships and mellower. I haven't drank in over 7 years now, and so everything has just gotten more calm and confident. There was no wondering. And then we went in, Sully had the idea to come in and make this our final studio record, not break the band up. We continue on, best times are ahead of us, right? But, the being in the machine part and cycle touring, which are brutal, like year and a half, 2 year tours that we've done for decades. And so it gave a different feeling to the whole recording and feelings, all kinds of different emotions and feelings that were all positive and all good. You know what I mean? So yeah. It made for what we feel is a special record. It's definitely special to us, and we hope that, everybody will get it and understand.
How did you feel when Sully started to talk about this being the final studio album? Like, that must have brought up some emotions for you. How did you feel when he first started to mention that?
Well, I'm the drummer, so I was like, hallelujah on final record, only because, as it's a very physical instrument, and the way I play it, too, in hard rock, heavy metal, punk rock, whatever, it's a very aggressive way and style of hitting drums, and so... And I'm not some old fart, you know what I mean? I'm 55, though. And so as the years progress, you know what I mean? I personally don't want to be the guy that's old, the old man up there trying to look young. You know what I mean? I feel like it's, especially in hard rock, heavy metal, it's fake. Because that music is founded on aggression and piss and vinegar, right? Yeah. And so, I felt, so when he said that, right away, I had no negative feelings about it and, no sadness or anything until later, once the realization, really sunk in, because we're serious. And there's already haters out there. Oh, yeah, they'll just come back in 2 years, make another record for the money or whatever it is. We don't need money, and we certainly don't need the accolades and all that crap. You know what badge we wear, and our favorite badge out of all, record sales and concerts, all that shit. We have the badge of longevity.
Yep.
And that's our we're most proud of that. Because, it's really hard, this business, particularly for same dudes to stay together 20 years and have a successful band. And, it's hard. It's really hard. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize how hard that is on many different levels. The business itself, it takes almost as much luck and chemistry as it does talent, to be successful in this business. And so to have come out of the other side in our mid-50s, could we go on and just keep making records? Sure. But historically, even the Rolling Stones, it's like records don't sell as much as you get older and older, and you become a nostalgia band. You know what I mean? And so we're okay with playing concerts and being a nostalgia band. We already have fans that come up and say, yeah, you know, I got you guys. These are 40 and 50-year-old people that started listening to our records when they were in middle school, you know? And so there's lots of nostalgia already in the last record that we toured on, you know, of meeting a lot of folks, fans like that. And so, you know, we understand where we can be, and it's nice. I'll stress this too really quickly. You know, in this, our lives, the four of us in Godsmack was first, and family and friends and everything else in life was second. And that's how we feel we were successful for all that time, because, you know, your focus was laser on just Godsmack. And so it's our lives, you know. This band, for the next 2 years, we're going to tour the shit out of this record, and that's going to be our lives, you know. And then finally, after a couple decades, we'll finally have, like, and it's simply the making of records that does this, which it's product, you go sell, there's money, it's all that crap. It's the business, the machine. But we'll finally be able to become what we started as, which is a live band. We can go out and we can play concerts at basically our discretion. Like, if we want to do, you know, a couple weeks of festivals in America, or come down there for a festival or something, we can do that.
Yeah.
And that'd be the only thing we do that year, because we're not trying to push some product, right? And so our reward is playing live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we always done. It's what we love to do. And so, you know, people can, you know, spin this how they want, but we didn't do it to, like, get attention. And we just thought, well, you know, it's a great idea. When he brought it up, Sully brought it up, and the four of us all talked, and, like, I just gave you mine, but everybody had a reason why it was a wonderful idea. Oh, we can go out on top and, you know, whatever, and not have to break the band up. No big cash cow money grab like vinyl tour, you know, to where, and then 2 years later we come back. We're not going to do any of that. We figure, you know, we can go as long as we can where we still feel that we're strong enough to get up there on the stage and represent our music, that a lot of it was written 2 decades ago, full of piss and vinegar, you know?
Yep.
And here we are, happy, older musicians, like, and so, you know, as long as we feel we can be real on the stage, we will continue to play into our 60s, you know? But the minute I feel like I'm up there faking it and acting like I'm young, then I'll quit.
Yeah. Shannon, did you feel when you're in the studio knowing that it was your last time, do you feel that changed the way you approached the album at all, or was it just business as usual?
It was business as usual, man, and that was the beauty of it. We really just clicked in the room, writing the songs, all the songs coming together in the studio. It just was organic and natural, and it felt so right. And the lyrics were coming to him, and all the lyrics ended up being cohesive and, like, kind of telling the story of his life, really, in this band, you know? And, you know, one of the songs is, like, even a love letter. It's not a love letter, a thank you letter almost to us for putting up with, you know, him being a artist, which, you know, a lot of times was lazy. Or it's crazy sometimes. So, and then there's, like, Lighting Up the Sky, which is kind of a reflection of his life and business, and you know, it's kind of it did affect us knowing it was the last record. Even musically, he really focused on trying to get the elements, because our records come far apart. Like, since I joined in 2003, 20-some years ago, we put records out every 4 years. It's a year to record, 2 years to tour, and then a year off, a way to just come up with ideas and get excited about getting back together. And so it's every record. You can look at it 4 years apart, and that's a long time, 4 years.
Yep.
And so, you know, in between Faceless and 4, those are 2 completely different records, you know? We're the same 4 dudes, so it sounds like the same band, but the production, everything was totally different about those records. And the same thing with the Oracle, which came after 4, was completely different. So, because 4 years passed, and so on that 4-year cycle, this time it'll be the same thing. We'll go out, tour for 2 years, and then we'll take a year off. And then instead of having to go back in the studio and make another product and everything that accompanies, we can go and make a rad tour where now we can make a best of set list with, our fans. It's exciting to us because we can take every moment from every tour, from every cycle, and pick the best moments from each one through the years and make one giant set list that just is nothing but moments. So we figure our fans and us on stage playing it, everybody's going to be happy,
Definitely.
And it'll be worth the exorbitant ticket prices they charge now,
Talking about the lyrics on this album, you mentioned that Sully's lyrics felt like a love letter. They are so personal on this album. One of the things I realized when I was listening to this album was I kept on thinking of moments in my own life when I felt like that. What were your first thoughts when you read those lyrics? Because they do feel like you're reading somebody's diary.
Well, historically, 90% of the songs have been the lyrics written by Sully are about Sully.
Yeah.
And so he's never been shy to wear his heart on his sleeve. And unfortunately, his heart is battered. And so, and us as his friends, that's the trippy part. We're friends, and so we're band members, but we're like brothers. And so, we've watched him over the years, and it happened recently, and this record, Surrender, was about one of his heartbreaks that was recent. And so, but to us, me and Robbie and Tony are like, wow, that sucks. There's our bro again, hurt,
Yep.
But it's a catch-22 because then we look at each other and go, we're gonna have some hit songs out of this.
Yeah.
Because it's true, man. He gets his heart broke, then he'll go and write 3 really great songs because of that specific thing. So, it's like I said, it's a very, very catch-22 double-edged sword. But whenever that happens, he always produces great music, and I'm sure he'll continue to. There's mountains where I like to say this, but it's because Godsmack definitely will define probably all of us, but we all do also have other mountains that perhaps we like to climb in life. You know what I mean? I look at it like, I know I'm going to be defined, right, by Godsmack, and probably after I'm long gone, he was the drummer for Godsmack, and I'm good with that. I'm proud of that. But, I also want to write books and maybe paint. I don't know. I can be a landscaper. Whatever I want to do, there's going to be mountains and more goals I'd like to achieve, you know what I mean? And so, to me, this is all just a hugely positive thing. And I understand why, especially our fans be like, what? They're lazy or whatever. But really, we're kind of in the best spot we've ever been our whole career.
Yeah. Mate, I think the one thing that your fans would never call you is lazy. I think, like I said, your lyrics have helped so many people over the years. You must have had so many fans come up to you over the years and talk to you about how Sully's lyrics have changed their lives or made them think about their own lives.
Absolutely, or got them through, thoughts of suicide and all these crazy things. And I've had people, it's funny because at one point, we were touring and Sully was going through a dark time with something and refused to do meet and greets, right? And so, but these people, would pay to meet the band, but and so, Tony and Robbie and I would come out and this wasn't everyone, but certain ones, sometimes he wasn't feeling good enough to do the meet and greet, so we'd come out and do them. And so Robbie would come out, sit down at the table. They have a table, and people walk up, and we sign their stuff and stuff. And so, Robbie comes up, sits down. I came up, sat down, and then Tony, my boss, came up, sat beside me. So I'm in the middle, and all the people just, there it was, I was Sully. And I don't, like I said, this one girl, like everyone was tripping out, but it was a line of at least 100, it was a festival, so it was outside too, and it was outside, I had sunglasses on. But, you know, the first person that did it was this girl, and she was literally crying and telling me how my lyrics got her through, you know, the worst times, the lowest times, the suicide times of her life, you know. And she was crying, and so I wasn't going to go, I'm not Sully, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of got up and I said, that's great, you know, and whatever, and signed her stuff, and I signed my name. I'm not going to sign his name, but I didn't want to burst her bubble. But then, ironically, this wasn't all the time, but that day, everyone else in the line just, I was Sully. And that, it was really unique for me, you know, to hear almost every other person was about his lyrics, how they helped them. And so that day really put me in his shoes for a minute and made me really proud that, you know, his lyrics mean something to people. And I always tell people, like, to me, he's like the hard rock, heavy metal Bruce Springsteen or something. You know, he writes these lyrics and they're not super metaphorical David Bowie clever lyrics, you know, they're like very blue collar America, and they touch our fan base just in a way that they can relate to. And it's because he's not ashamed to wear his heart on his sleeve and tell it, you know, his songs are real. And, you know, to get across on the radio, you know, your song's got to be real. And I think that's what makes a hit. If people can relate to this thing, you know, and then boom, they'll let it in their lives.
Definitely. Shannon, I wanted to ask about your body at the moment as well. I know a lot of drummers who have said that the pandemic came as a little bit of a blessing because it meant that they had almost 2 years off. How's your body feeling before you go out on tour after that little bit of a break?
Well, we never really took off. You know, that it's funny, I told you about the 4-year plan and the 4th year being the year off. So 2020 happened, and we came back from the Legends tour, and we actually, our 4th song, which had never happened, went number 1 too. So we could tour longer, and we love to play. We're a live band, so we had a 4th number 1, and you know it was like the December of 2018, and so we're like, 2019. And so we're like, boom, we start booking 2020, when that would have been our year off anyway. But we started booking it because we'd never had a record with that many hit songs, kept hitting, so you can keep touring, which is where we love to do. So 2020 comes around, we had all these shows, we had booked all the way up into the fall. We had all these cool shows like opening for Metallica, and all this cool stuff was headed up. And then, of course, you know what happened, the pandemic, boom, everything shuts down, the world shuts down. So we went ahead and said, all right, then this is the year off that we would have taken. No worries. And then we'll just get right back on our schedule, and next year we'll start year 1 writing and recording, right? 2021. Well, as we all know, you know, we figured, you know, this thing will be gone. By 2021, the world will be back to normal. Well, it wasn't. So, but we did the same thing, and so now everybody, you know, gathered in Florida in 2021, and we started writing. And that's basically, so the pandemic, you know, we didn't have any time off, really. We took our year off in 2020, for sure. But then 2021, which was, for everyone else, another year of just being stuck home. That was us stuck home, but working and writing songs for the new record, which we did in 2021. And so by the end of 2021, we had it all, you know, done and ready. And so now here we are. Or no, 2021. No, that's right. There was the extra year. That's right. Because then 2022 happened. So that's what it was. So then 2022, in 2021, we wrote a bunch of music, and then the world didn't get better. And then we took a break, and then came back, and a lot of that music got scrapped, and he had written the majority of these songs, way better stuff than what we had initially had. And so we continued. My point is we never just took another year off. We just continued writing and recording and writing and till we and knowing it was our last one until we got the best stuff, that we felt represented the whole band's career. Like I said, like a love letter to our career,
Definitely. Well, Shannon, I know we are right out of time, and you've been so great chatting to us today, but I was just wondering, could you finish off by giving a little message to your fans just before they go out and grab this brand new album?
Yes, I would like to say to all our fans that I hope they enjoy this new record. It really is a personal record, and although it's our last record, we hope to see you on tour, and we hope to tour as long as we can.
Didn't see this side unfolding. Hey, I can't wait for you to make up your mind. I need to take you every time I'm self-destructing. Help me, I'm begging you a long time. This time I need you in the worst way. Oh baby, I'd set my soul on fire. Help me, I'm begging you a long time. This time I need you in the worst way. Oh baby, I'd set my soul on fire. Listening, I can hear those thoughts you think. Every word you wanna speak, just let it go and devour me. I can't control my mind, it's spinning me out every time. It fuels my fire within. Why won't you let me in? Oh yeah, help me, I'm begging you a long time. This time I need you in the worst way. Oh baby, I'd set my soul on fire. Help me, I'm begging you a long time. This time I need you in the worst way. Oh baby, I'd set my soul on fire. Help me, I'm begging you a long time. This time I need you in the worst way. Oh baby, I'd set my soul on fire. Help me, I'm begging you a long time. I need you in the worst way. I'd set my soul on fire. I'd set my soul on fire. Yeah, on fire.
And wow, what kind of big news was that on Subculture After Dark? That track was Soul on Fire by Godsmack. But how about that,
Not
mate?
Kylie Minogue, in case there was any confusion there.
But man, what a bombshell. That's it for Godsmack. No more recording. We are going to get to see them play live. They're going to go.
And just for perspective, I had to, really help Dave out. He was crying in the studio at that news. So just remember, it's okay to not be okay.
That just absolutely floored me. Like, I don't know if you noticed during that interview or how my voice went, but it was like, yeah, we're not, this is our last album. And I was like, what? Like, I went into that interview kind of already nervous because they're a band that I really admire and really love. And that just came out of nowhere. I'm sure like other people now have heard the news because like some other outlets have reported on it, but that was pre any of that stuff coming out onto the internet. So for me, that was just bang, like that's it. But the good news is they are going to keep touring. And I was just amazed at how personal that interview was. Some of the stuff talked about in that interview that the band have been through over the years was just, yeah, I don't know. Like I'm still kind of in a bit of shock, like even now. But at least we'll get to see them play live for the next few years, I guess.
Well, maybe everyone can join Dave on change.org and create a petition. Don't stop recording Godsmack.
But now, look, we're going to get very, very heavy on the show right now because Cattle Decapitation have got a brand new single out called We Eat Our Young, and we're going to play it right now on Subculture.
So is this a case of set your speakers to stun or deafen?
Yeah, definitely turn your speakers right up right now and let your parents know what you're listening to. That's if you're a kid like I was in the early days of when I got into metal and you used to have to sneak off to your room to listen to it, turn it up right now and your parents will get a fair indication of what you're listening to. This is We Eat Our Young by Cattle Decapitation.
I want to start off by saying congratulations on this brand new album. I've been listening to it all day and it's an amazing album, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So this album sees the band explore more into Norse mythology. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about those early talks that you had about this album and where the idea for this album came from.
Well, we had a vague idea and about the concept, and Eva, the guitar player, main songwriter, he came down to my place. We usually have a concept meeting to pan out the directions and to make some sort of a backdrop for the whole process. So he came down. It was I can't remember the exact date, but it was in 2021, so it was 2 years ago. And we thought of finally paying homage to one of the most interesting creatures in the Norse mythology and beyond that, Heimdall. And Heimdall has been sort of lurking around in the shadows of the Enslaved universe ever since the beginning of our career. And we even had a song called Heimdall, that's in Old Norse, on our demo tape Yggdrasil from 1992. So he's been there all the time, a really, really fascinating and enigmatic character with sort of shrouded origins, because he appears in the Norse mythology, but I mean there are a lot of loose ends in the mythological stories about Heimdall, and we wanted to explore more of that.
Yeah.
To also put him in his historical context. So we pretty much came to the conclusion that he was here already before something called Norse mythology even existed. He was probably he belonged to a much older cult than the Norse mythology. So he was definitely a forerunner, and in some form, one way or the other, he has been lurking around in these areas for who knows how long, but thousands of years, and thousands of years before the Odin cult arrived on the Scandinavian peninsula. So you can find traces of Heimdall-like creatures, forerunners, in Bronze Age rock carvings and stuff like that. So really, really interesting character, and it was really, really fascinating to dig into. And it's such an important figure in the Norse mythology as well. He's really, really, really significant. He has significance in the creation of the world, and he is also present in at the end of the final battle in Ragnarok. Significant roles there too, and probably also in an afterlife, so to speak. So there's a lot of the whole Heimdall concept is really broad and really, really fascinating. So it was a fantastic backdrop for the writing and recording process. Really, really fascinating.
You mentioned about exploring more and more about Heimdall as a character. Was there anything that you learnt during that exploration that really surprised you?
Yes. It really surprised me. He has been incorporated into the Norse mythology at some stage, and most of the other gods and creatures in the mythology has like in different sources they seem to have the same background story.
Yep.
Except Heimdall. Heimdall hasn't. Heimdall has, several and scholars have different scholars have suggested that he comes from at least 3 different origins, different cults. So he is probably the most enigmatic creature in the whole Norse mythology, and that was kind of one of the things what surprised us, and that we still didn't knew after so many years writing about Norse mythology. Yeah.
So, as a band, once you have the theme in mind that you're going to do for the new album, what happens then? Do you each go away and start working on tracks around that theme, or what's the process for the band once you've got that initial theme in mind?
Well, it usually starts with Ivar goes back and he starts making demos, like instrumental demos. And then he would send them around, and me and the drummer and co-vocalist Ivar Sunday, we would. Or it usually starts with I'm trying to make I'm making a sketch, a suggestion of what's and where to sing over things, and then we would either me and Ivar would write the lyric for one specific song, and then I will travel up to Ivar's studio, and we would make vocal demos.
Yeah,
like song by song, or maybe we do like 2 songs in one session. So that's usually the process, and after we have added some vocals to it, we would decide where to put the guitar leads, the keyboard leads, and that's basically the process.
Yeah. I was interested to read
studio
work. I was interested to read in another interview as well that the father-son relationship between Heimdall and Odin also kind of mirrors the journey that the band has had over the 30 years as well. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, about the notion that this album kind of has dialogue between the band from now and the band in the past. Is that something that you were aware of at the time as well?
Yeah, that was one of the let's call it the elements we put on the paper when we made the background story for the album. And the Odin Heimdall relation, that's one of the theories of the origins of Heimdall, or at least how they incorporated Heimdall into the Norse mythology. And yeah, I mean, we for some reason we have always managed as a band to at least unconsciously keep the red line through our songs, our albums. So it's always, we have always some elements that unconsciously connect us with our previous albums or past. So it's got some similarities that way, definitely.
I was going to ask too, as well, with the pandemic in the middle of everything, as well, was that a time for you to reflect on where the band has come from over the years? Because I know a lot of bands that have been around for a long time kind of use that time to reflect on the past and look to the future as well. What was that time like for you in particular?
I mean, first of all, I think the writing process of this album was probably one of the few things that we benefited. It was beneficial to have a pandemic, because we don't have that much time to write albums and record albums, because we usually do that in the middle of gigs and tours. So for for the first time in a very long time, we actually had ample time to do a little exploration in the writing process and the recording process and the process of making demos and the whole effort really.
Yeah.
So finally we could try out different angles, different solution, a lot of twisting and tweaking to the on the arrangements, and I think that was really beneficial. So, and of course, I mean, it became the whole effort, the whole songs. They have become a little bit more introvert, I would say. I mean, there's more layers to them.
Yeah,
there's like something intricate going on all the time throughout all the songs. Even in the seemingly primitive parts, there's several layers to it. So it was harder to record them, and also it was kind of, as soon as we got the songs under the skin, so to speak, it was like really enjoyable to work with them, because it was like became a greater part of yourself. Yeah. So that was really cool. Yeah.
I was going to ask about those layers, because I was going to say, when you listen to this album and you listen to the tracks 2 or 3 times, you start to hear things on those tracks that you didn't hear the first time around. Have you found that yourself as you listen to these tracks, that there's things there that you don't notice the first couple of times?
Oh yeah, absolutely. On some of the songs, I really had to listen to the instrumental demos several times to kind of get the clue. And some parts and some songs were more immediate than others. But I would say, like, at least half of the songs I really had to listen to many times to figure out what to do with them, how to figure out what to sing over them.
Yeah.
So I spent loads of hours doing the exact same thing. So yes, definitely.
I wanted to ask too about the intro to Behind the Mirror. That is such a haunting and beautiful intro. Tell us a little bit about how that intro came to life, because that just absolutely blew me away when I heard that.
Well, that's our friend Eilif Gundersen. He plays in Vardruna, and he's got like an exact replica of a Bronze Age instrument. It's like a replica made of a bronze horn that it's I think it's like 3,300 years old, and it was found in a bog in Denmark, and since it was like lying in a bog, it was like completely preserved. So they were able to make replicas out of it, and it sound absolutely haunting, mesmerizing, and totally amazing. So we contacted Eilif and asked if he would be willing to play some horn for us. So he came down to my place. We all gathered here for the last recordings, and then we transported him onto an island in a lake nearby here, and he was like standing on this island playing the horn, while me and Håkon were paddling around him to kind of trying to recreate a scenario from try to recreate a Bronze Age scenario.
Yeah.
And of course we had to paddle, because they didn't have rowing vessels at that stage. They were paddling their boats.
Yeah.
So that's why. So yeah, and that horn also appears on the outro of the album. So it's a kind of a bridge to the ancient times, to the origins of the creature Heimdall.
Yeah. What was that like, being there and experiencing that? Because it feels when you listen to it on the album, it feels like it takes you on a journey back to the Bronze Age. So what was it like actually being there and experiencing that as he blew it?
It was kind of it was really mesmerizing. It was you felt kind of connected to something big. One of those goosebumps moments.
Yep.
Yeah, really spiritual. It was like all silent that day, and that horn, that sound. I mean, it like resounded. Like the funny thing is, like a friend of mine, he was standing on the shore, like at least, let's say, 400 or 500 meters away, and he said the sound got like more and more massive. It's like it bore like a thunderstorm. So it was he said it was totally amazing.
Wow.
And you can just imagine when they blew horns for whatever reasons. Either it was a ceremony in the Bronze Age, or if it was in connection to a battle call. We don't know. Probably both.
Yep.
So it was really an eerie, sort of esoteric feeling.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Wow. Well, we've talked about the journey that you've been on with this album. What would you like your fans to take away from this album when they sit down to listen to it? Is there something that you hope that they take away from this album?
I mean, I think, music, good music, are meant to somehow take the listener, or even the performer, on some sort of a journey. It's supposed to transform you into a different state of mind, and I personally think we have succeeded this time, because it's really I think it's dynamic. It's drony. It's a bit psychedelic and trippy, and it really does take you on such a journey. I mean, for those who are interested, of course. I mean, those who doesn't. I mean, people will dismiss it if they don't like it, of course. But I mean, if you are into Enslaved, if you understand where we are heading, you will really appreciate it, I think.
Definitely.
At least we do. When we perform the songs, we get that feeling. So we hope that is transformable to the listening audience as well.
Definitely. Well, we're going to let our listeners start on that journey right now. We're going to play Forest Dweller on our show. So I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to all of your Australian fans out there who are about to go and grab the album? And is there any chance that we might see you guys tour in Australia sometime soon as well?
I wish I could say yes, but I mean, we have plans of we're going to play in Bergen, Norway, next Friday, and then we are heading to the United States and Canada, and then we have Europe, and then we have festivals. So I doubt that anything will happen in 2023 in Australia. I mean, it's not. I think we are pretty much fully booked.
Yeah.
For this year. So hopefully next year. But I mean, we're facing troubles with. I think everybody knows that logistics have the prices have increased a lot. So it has been increasingly difficult to travel. He said, I mean, even within Norway, even in Europe. So let's just hope for better times, and let's hope we can come back to Australia in 24.
Definitely.
That's
Well,
all I can. I can't make any promises, but I really hope so, because we always have a good time down under.
yeah. Well, we definitely hope so. But for now on our show, we're going to play Forest Dweller. And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we are going to take a look now at a brand new EP that is out there. It is called the Precursor EP, and it's been released by Cthulu Dreamt. And we thought, what better way than to find out a little bit more about this album, but to get some members of the band on the phone. So, guys, welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going? Here.
Now, guys, we've been hearing a little bit more from you guys over the past couple of months with this EP and the singles coming off it. So I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of a rundown on the history of the band for those out there that have been hearing your music for the first time over the last few months.
Yeah, sure. So we started during the pandemic, and it was just kind of one of those things where I'm Reed, by the way, all you listeners, hi. But I wanted to do a project that allowed me to kind of deal with a bunch of issues that I had from losing a daughter, and I invited a bunch of friends to kind of jump in with me and collaborate on writing just some crazy off-the-wall stuff, metal, but also trap music and synth-based stuff and movie score music, just kind of all combined so that we could tell a story essentially through this project. And we released our first album in January of 2021, self-titled, and the story kind of is an analogy for how I was dealing with those issues. And it follows this scientist who lost their kid and wanted to reunite with them through advancements in science, and essentially they opened a portal, but unknowingly also brought Cthulhu into the world. And Cthulhu is a representation of all the negative and just the monstrous things that we can't control as humans, grief and depression and loss, and so that's kind of how the story began. And I was so hyped after the first album came out, we just started writing immediately. And the second album, Liminality, we released in March of 22. And kind of around that time too, we teamed up with a game company to start work on a tabletop role-playing game where based in the world of Cthulhu Dreamt. And so we started work on that, but that's almost going to be coming to fruition here in a few weeks. But in the meantime, then we wrote more music, and that's the Precursor EP, which came out in January of 23. So yeah, I don't know if I lost
that's the history, the whole history.
So Ben, what were your thoughts when Reed first came to you and said, "Hey, I've got this idea for a band," especially since it was born out of something so deep and personal for him?
So I'm Ben, and Reed and I have been friends for a very long time now. I think we just figured out it was 17 years ago that we met. We were just talking about that today, and so when Reed, the answer when Reed wants to do anything is yes. And I think that the project being so personal, I think made it more exciting for me, just because I love my buddy, But yeah, I think the interesting thing is that I'm not a metal guy. I appreciate metal music and I listen to some of it, but I'm not a guitar person. I play keys and I sing, and so when he came to me and he was like, "I'm working on this predominantly metal album," I was a little well, I don't even know how I'm going to help. So, so a lot of what I've done has been after the, yeah, you didn't even ask that question. I'm just answering a question you didn't ask. But that's those are my feelings. That's how I. That's how I felt when he asked me. I was just stoked to jump in and work on. I think art that's about something personal and about something traumatic is more powerful. It's a more exciting thing to make art about. So I found that really exciting and engaging.
So Reed, tell us a little bit more about this tabletop game. I know a lot of our listeners are going to be really, really interested in that. So tell us a little bit about that and how that's come about and how you've built that up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So, so I've got a good friend who runs a a game development company, like an indie studio, and they make a lot of like stuff for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, and you know, he and I talk from time to time before this, just kind of like running ideas past each other, and like you know, he's got a lot of experience in like marketing stuff and things that I wasn't super familiar with, and we got on the topic of Cthulhu Dreamt, and he's like, "Have you ever thought about turning this into a game?" And I was like, "Well, now I have." And he's like, "Okay, I'll introduce you to some people, and you know, you guys can run with that." And I was like, "Don't you make games?" He's like, "Yeah, but," and I was like, "Dude, I want to do this with my friends. Like, let's do this." And so we've been working on the game for over a couple of years, like just kind of developing ideas, you know, and like the music for the soundtrack, which is like half of the project, is done. Like I finished that a couple months ago, and it's almost 3 hours of music, everything that you kind of expect from Cthulhu Dreamt, except it's all instrumental. So it's kind of like a film score, but it's made for like listening to it as you play through the game, and just kind of highlighting cinematic moments of the story, and it's crazy that it's been in development so long, but we're releasing a Kickstarter for it at the end of this month, March 28th, and it's going to be like a pretty awesome book, and we've got one of the band members is a novelist, and he's writing a companion novel about a couple of the characters, and then it's got the immersive soundtrack, and depending on how the Kickstarter does, you know, there'll be various like merch that'll be attached to it. So like, you know, if we do really, really, really well, you know, it could be like a tri-gatefold vinyl with 2 discs, but you know, it's pretty sprawling and massive, and I'm excited to see it kind of come to fruition now.
Has that ever been done before with a soundtrack for a tabletop game? Because I've never heard of that being done before.
Well, see, like that's it. I haven't heard of that either. Like I know there are games and stuff where it's one of those things where when they go to Kickstarter, and then if they hit some kind of reward tier, they'll have somebody make a song or a few songs to kind of accentuate the project. But like this one, straight up, like it starts like no matter what tier you back at, you're gonna get the full soundtrack and the full game, whether it's digital or, you know, the hard copies of like the CD or the vinyl or whatever. But I don't know if I've never seen it like as part of the project on such a massive part of the project from the get-go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Before we move on to Precursor, if people want to help you guys out with the Kickstarter for that, where could they go to help you out? Because I think we've got a lot of listeners that would love to get behind that.
So Cthulhu Dreamt, which is the same spelling as our band name, CTHULHU. Oh my God. Why did we spell it so hard? No, but CthulhuDreamt.com kind of has like all of the preliminary information, and they can add their name to the email list, and or they can search for it on Kickstarter if they want to. But you know, we're going to be like starting the launch on our social media pretty quick here, so if they follow us anywhere there too, they'll be getting bombarded.
Definitely. So, Ben, tell us a little bit about Precursor. Tell us a little bit about this EP and how it came into being. Did you guys have any goals that you wanted to hit with this EP, or what was the main genesis behind it?
So I'm gonna kick it back to Reed, actually, like, because I actually have been a lot more involved with the game. So I'm gonna kick it back over to Reed.
Yeah. Okay. So the Precursor thing, it really was born out of hitting kind of a lull in the game production, as they were doing some other stuff where I wasn't really needed for much on the game development side, and a lot of the music had kind of already taken shape, and I was like, you know, it'd be fun to kind of get some stuff out there that is preliminary to the soundtrack. So there's like some musical themes that you'll hear on the EP that you're going to hear if you're paying attention, to the game soundtrack too. And so, we did this EP, like 7 songs, and then I just kind of put out the bat signal to other guys in the band and some friends of ours too who produce music, and I was like, hey, does anybody want to do like a cover or like a re-envisioning of any of our stuff? And so that's the back half of the EP, like the 7 songs at the end of the album are like covers and reimaginings of stuff that we've already done.
And I did do one of them.
Yeah.
So Ben, what was that like for you, going back and reimagining one of the songs? Like, was that something that you enjoyed doing?
Oh yeah, it was super fun. I was really mad because someone else had already taken the song I wanted, and so I had to go find another one to cover. But I think Reed and I have a really different style and like kind of starting place for making music. I mean, part of that is just like he's a guitar guy and I'm a keys guy, but even just the music that we're inspired by. And so it was really fun to kind of have the rules lifted and I could just kind of reimagine the song however I wanted and play around with it and try to figure out what's the identity of this song, what makes this song what it is, and then what can go away and we don't lose the quality of the song, and what can we add to it. And that was just a really fun process. I really enjoyed that a lot.
So Ben, it seems like I should have asked you earlier as well. What's been your role with the game? What have you been doing with the game, and how have you found that experience?
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 roles in Cthulhu Dreamt. One is kind of a storytelling role, and so I wrote the liner notes for the first 2 albums, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a big part of helping Reed kind of develop, especially early on, the story of the world of Cthulhu, especially the 2 characters at the center of it, Alia and Maya. And so that's been a big part of it. And so like a lot of like what's been handed over to the folks like Chris, who's working on the novel, or the folks at Action Fiction that are working on the game. A lot of that, like I was a big part of developing the material that got handed over to those guys and is being developed into the game. And I was part of a lot of, especially early meetings, like developing kind of what the story of even the game would be. And then the other role that I have is obviously I played keys, but Reed plays keys too. So I played some keys on a few tracks, and then I also am a composer, and so I've worked on the soundtrack for the game as well. I've written a few tracks for that, orchestral tracks, for some of the cinematic moments that are going to show up on the soundtrack. So.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope we can get you back on the show when the game comes out, and also when the novel comes out as well. That would be absolutely amazing. But what are your plans now for the rest of this year?
Well, so the game launches on Kickstarter on the 28th, and it runs for 4 weeks. And then I've like been champing at the bit so hard to like get the game kind of off my desk, and because I want to jump into the 3rd album because I've got so many ideas in my head about how I want the 3rd album to be, and like the process is going to change a little bit with how we develop it, because each contributor in Cthulhu Dreamt is going to kind of have their pass, and it's kind of going to be like by committee, as opposed to just like, submission of some riffs and then arrangement and stuff. But the plan is to get album 3 like to where it's going to be awesome, and then release it and start playing shows.
Awesome. So guys, to finish off the interview, what would you like to say to everybody out there before they go and listen to Precursor, but also before the Kickstarter kicks off as well?
First of all, like, thank you to anybody who's listened to us at all already. Thank you for checking us out if you haven't yet, and let us know what you think. Like, if you hate it, let us know. If you love it, let your friends know.
I just did a big thank you to anyone that's ever listened to our music. That's just just as lonely, and it was even lonelier during COVID. And it's just great to know that people are paying attention and are engaged. That's just so exciting.
Yeah, and if it connects with anybody, like on any meaningful level, like then our job is already done.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been an absolute honor having you in the show. I'm so excited about this. I genuinely love your music already, and now I've found out about a game and a novel. I am so excited. You've made my day, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And that all the scientists on Earth pool their resources as quickly as possible. It is unanimously agreed that unless this is done immediately, Earth will have no hope of fighting off the imminent attack.
And that was One Night in Tokyo by Battle Beast. And why did I throw that in? Because it's not a new song. Well, every fortnight when we do this podcast, I'm going to throw in a classic metal track that has been doing the rounds at my place at the moment. So I've been listening to that track a lot recently, and I don't even know why. It's just one of those tracks that came out a few years ago. I really, really liked, and I've been giving it a bit of a listen recently. So mate, if people have listened tonight to Subculture After Dark and have really liked it, how often are we going to do an episode?
So they'll be out twice a month on the 14th and 28th of every month. And, same platform as usual. If you anytime you want to find anything from Subculture, you can go straight to our website, subcultureentertainment.com. And you'll find a whole bunch of other stuff there as well.
Definitely. And of course, the podcast will be up on Spreaker, which means that it'll be going out through Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Deezer. Goes out absolutely everywhere. So pretty much wherever you get your podcasts from, you should be able to grab a copy of Subculture After Dark. But thanks for listening to our first episode. This is pretty much what our show is going to be like going forward. We'll be playing new tracks. We'll have new interviews. Not every time will we have big international acts. Sometimes we'll keep it Aussie. But it was awesome to have a show where we had bands like Godsmack and Enslaved and everything on. So great start for Subculture After Dark.
And if you're a metal band, a heavy band that's working its way through the industry, you're a bit of a rising star, reach out to us as well.
Definitely. And we want to promote shows too. So if you're in a metal band and you're listening and you've got shows coming up, let us know. We love to plug shows. We love to plug new music. So just let us know through our Subculture Entertainment socials. We're on Facebook, Discord, Twitter, Instagram. Just drop us a line and say, hey guys, we've got a show coming up or whatever, and only too happy to promote that. So but that's it for the first episode of Subculture After Dark. I've been Dave G.
And I've been Harley, and keep thrashing.
Yep, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a brand new episode. See you then.